brought to you in part by Volkswagen. Experience German engineering the Volkswagen way.
And now A&E has your international ticket to the best in award-winning filmmaking. It's A&E's Screening Room.
There is one family that personified the American dream. For decades, the story of America revolved around the lives and deaths of its members. At times, in their fabulous lives, they appeared the very masters of time and chance. Their triumphs and their tragedies have touched millions. These are the Kennedys. This is their story. Their political first. Jack, the youngest man ever to be elected president. Bobby.
That's all right. Don't get him excited. This is my first trip to Europe, and I was very excited. I couldn't even sleep last night.
The first American to serve in a brother's presidential cabinet. And when Teddy was elected, the Kennedys became the first family to elect 3 sons to the United States Senate. They brought a family approach to American politics. One for all, and all for one. Politics, the game with the highest stakes, was there to be mastered and won. A way to celebrate the Kennedy joie de vivre. They made it seem, in a world struggling for survival, that anything could be done, that anything was possible. What about setbacks and calamities? After one family tragedy, a reporter asked Brother Bobby if now the Kennedys would give up. He replied, "The Kennedys intend to stay in public life. Good luck is something you make. Bad luck is something you endure." And it was that view of life and death that sustained Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. in his hours of grief. His firstborn, Joe Jr., crashed to his death in World War II. Daughter Kathleen killed in a plane crash. Jack, the president, assassinated in a Dallas motorcade. Bobby murdered in a Los Angeles hotel kitchen. Joe Kennedy, crippled by a stroke, endured the bad. Time and chance had dealt with him and his family in a manner that rivaled the tragedies of the Greeks. Joseph P. Kennedy's grandfather was an Irish peasant. He came to America during the potato famine of the 1860s in Ireland. Joe's father was a saloon keeper and a ward-level politician who eventually served in the Massachusetts legislature. Joe would remember to his dying day the signs, "No Irish Need Lie." But he got a better start than most Boston Irish of his day. He was educated with the elite at Boston's Latin School, then at Harvard. And when he married Rose Fitzgerald, the daughter of Mayor Honey Fitz, it was the union of 2 politically powerful Irish families. With the help of his father and father-in-law, Joe became the youngest bank president in the United States. People took notice of him. That fellow has something, they said. But not the right people. Not the people who mattered. To the lodges and the Cabots and other proper Bostonians, Joe Kennedy was an upstart. A brash, aggressive, money-making Irish Catholic. Joseph P. Kennedy couldn't join their country clubs. His wife, Rose, educated in Europe, couldn't join the Junior League. His children were not accepted as equals by the offspring of the Boston Brahmins. But Joe Kennedy believed in the American dream. He was out to prove it true. He had wit and charm and brains, and he had luck. During World War I, he became an executive in a shipyard, and there had his first encounter with Franklin Roosevelt, then Assistant Secretary of the Navy. The war over, he charmed his way into a firm of stockbrokers, quickly became a master of the marketplace, and took off for New York and Wall Street after the big money. Here again, he learned and earned, but seemed still to be looking. Then came Hollywood. He refinanced major studios, produced films, met Gloria Swanson, formed a friendship and a company with her. They were together frequently. There was a scandal. And all the while, he kept piling up money. A man of substance, as the 20s began to roar, he was a millionaire many times over when they crashed. He had the foresight, or was it Irish luck, to liquidate his holdings the year before the market collapsed. His fortune was safe. The family spent summers on the Cape and winters at Palm Beach. For the Kennedy family, life was unchanged. But Joe Sr. was worried about his fortune. Everywhere there were signs of chaos. The recovery promised by President Hoover was nowhere in sight. Close to 1,400 banks failed in 1930 alone. Soon, 16 million workers were unemployed. Foreclosures and evictions stirred ugly moods. Mobs in Washington. Riots. Upheaval. The rage of the people might bring everything down. He saw Franklin D. Roosevelt as a man who could save it all and set out to help him. Roosevelt needed a solvent supporter, a man of substance, and an Irish Catholic to neutralize his Irish Catholic competitor, Al Smith.
Not to win votes alone, but to win in this crusade to restore America to its own people.
Roosevelt welcomed him. Kennedy contributed $25,000 to the campaign, loaned the Democrats $50,000 more, collected another $100,000 from his millionaire friends. But still, he was an outsider. His money was welcome, but the idealists in the party were skeptical of a stock market operator. When Franklin Roosevelt became president, Joe Kennedy expected to be Secretary of the Treasury. FDR kept him waiting for a year and a half. Kennedy thought he had been taken. Finally, he was named chairman of the newly created Securities and Exchange Commission. A stroke of Roosevelt's genius. Kennedy was perfect for the job. He knew all the tricks to catch the trickster.
Against all enemies.
The SEC established, he resigned to work on FDR's re-election. Then came the real reward for an Irishman from Boston. Roosevelt made him ambassador to the court of St. James.
All right there, boys, it's late.
He loved England. His large family was a source of fascination to the English. Nothing could have pleased Joe Kennedy more.
Just arrived in England after a very pleasant trip. I'm looking forward with great anticipation to my duties here and to renewing acquaintanceship with many old friends. Thank you very much.
But what about the family of 9, Mr. Kennedy?
We're not wishing to add to the housing problem of England and make it any worse than it is. I'm bringing them over in installments. 5, 2, and 2.
Thank you.
Of all he had done, all that he possessed, nothing compared with his love for his family. There were plans for them, especially his... Nothing would obstruct the path of his children. Everything would be placed at their disposal. What was needed was the proper upbringing, a good education, the will to win. Failure was not tolerated. Destiny must be actively pursued. If you used your head and you worked, you were sure to win. Competition created strength, assured excellence. The Kennedy children were in constant competition. It was an essential part of their upbringing. They were taught to rely on one another, but also on themselves. Joe Jr., with his dad so often away, was almost a surrogate father. But he and his mother worked within guidelines set by the father. Loyalty to the family, allegiance to one another, respect for, but not fear of those above. Joe Jr. was the star of the family, and he patterned himself on his father. His ambitions, his conservative views, his pugnacious personality. He was bright, he was determined. He sometimes boasted that if his dad didn't precede him to the White House, he, Joe Jr., would be the first Catholic president.
Kennedys Don't Cry will continue in a moment.